against the Devils as they begin a 4-game road trip, and then they'll host the Anaheim Ducks in their home opener at Mullet on October 21st. And you think about this roster, the fourth youngest in the entire league. They open up at the Devils, then they got the Rangers and Islanders, and then the Blues. That's their first road trip of the season. Wow. We're visiting with Coach Steve Peters here. He is part of ESPN and as well as Go PHNX. And real quick, talk about Go PHNX. And I know you and Craig Morgan, and you got a great staff over there. When are you typically doing your podcasts, and what is the schedule during the season?
Yeah, once the season starts, we're on every post game. We do 5 shows a week. So if they have 4 games, we're on 4 post games. Then we'll throw another show in for you at 11 o'clock in the afternoon. But we're on all the time. Just
11 o'clock in the afternoon?
Well, it's afternoon. That for me is afternoon. I get up at 5.
Yeah.
Like 11's afternoon. It's almost dinner time at 5.
That's brunch, man.
But go to Go PHNX and check out our schedule.
I was telling Manuch yesterday about what you do as an analyst for ESPN. I just think this is so interesting. Kind of break down what you provide to the on-air talent is what we see when we watch a game on ESPN.
See, it's fun because I became the video coach for ESPN, and when they got hockey back, they needed somebody that really knew the sport of hockey. So I took my video coaching skills from here in Arizona, and all I do is break down game film. So if I've got, if tonight's game is Washington-Pittsburgh, I would watch 3 games of Pittsburgh, 3 games of Washington, break down, tell you who's good, who's bad, what systems are they playing, how are they giving up their chances, how are they scoring, what are the storylines you need to follow for this team. And then I do video voiceovers, send it to everybody from the producer to the cameraman to the guys on the air, and it's amazing. You guys know how hard this is to prep.
Sure.
Like, you guys are on the air all day long talking about all these different sports. You need to know this stuff, and all the guys that are on the air, they don't have time to prep all this stuff or watch all these games. So I do it for them. I'm watching hockey all day, every day, and it's great. I love what I do for ESPN. It's way, way, way behind the scenes, but once in a while you hear somebody use the words that you wrote down come out of their mouth on TV, and it's really cool.
So as we look at this team, we talked about the offense, we talked about the goaltending. How about the defense? What are some of the biggest changes we're going to see this year? And talk about some of the guys that they added.
Well, this is the concern. This area is the area that I said, when you look around this league, I know people are excited about the addition of Dumba on the back end and Dursey on the back end. They're nice additions. The problem, when you look around the Central Division, there are teams that are 6 defense deep that win. And you're talking about the Vegas Golden Knights in the Pacific. They win by defending. Colorado's got a solid 6. Minnesota, there are teams with better defense. I like this group, but they're very young. There's a player, J.J. Mosier. He's one to look for. He's just turned 23. What a defenseman. I compared him to his face. I said, "You're a young Teppo Newman." And he said, "Who?" And I'm not kidding. That's a true story.
That's young.
Yep. So when you don't know the guy,
very young.
Well, that's not much of a kid that's, well, I'm not going to, I'll give him the credit that delved into the sport.
Exactly.
You know.
And so there are some very young, talented players on this group. I think they're going to take some time to develop. It's better than they were a year ago, but this 6th group of the D is going to have to get some work done to limit the chances.
Okay, so Steve, so a lot of folks out there listening, okay, you talk about the Vegas Knights and all that on the back, and they're good defense. They're really good. What does that mean, and how far does this defense have to go to get to that kind of a standard?
Yeah, when you watch it, it's funny because defense wins championships in any sport. That's just what I believe. Yeah. I believe you start building a hockey team from the goaltender, the defense on out. What the Vegas Golden Knights and the way they defended, they limited their opponents' opportunities at their net. They protected the blue paint, like in basketball, the paint in basketball, they protected their crease extremely well, which made their goaltender make 1 save, not 2, 3, and 4 saves. They're not giving up the rebounds. The goalie gets clean looks because the defense, what we call box out, which means they push the opponents away so the goalie can see. I'm concerned that the Coyotes defense are a little slight. They're smaller of stature. They have Josh Brown on the back end is the only real defenseman that's dig down tough. And Dumba is going to be a big open ice hitter, but they don't have the size that some of these other teams do. And their system doesn't allow for it. The way Coach Tournier coaches in the defensive zone, he has his defensemen very, very active, we call it. So they're skating towards the puck instead of protecting the net.
Turner, you bring up the Bear. You bring up Coach T. Gets an extension in August. I believe it was August. He got his extension.
Recently.
A lot of the other coaches got extensions, front office extensions. Was that a little too premature, or is that the ownership is saying, hey, we believe in these guys. We're going to go in this direction. This is what we're doing.
I had this team pegged for 55, 57 points a season ago, and they got 70, and I put all of that on the coach.
Okay. Okay.
He is
he's
exceptional.
worth 15 more points.
Exceptional.
Okay.
What he has done
That's
in
good to
juniors
know.
with Hockey Canada, I've talked to the players. I've talked to him, and he impresses me. I would have liked to have worked for a coach like him, but here's the reason he got signed right away. He was brought to the Arizona Coyotes by Shane Doan. Shane Doan worked with him at Hockey Canada. They had a great relationship. That's how it began here. Shane Doan goes to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Their coach had 1 year left on his contract. Tourigny had 1 year left on his contract. And the writing on the wall was, oh my goodness, Shane Doan's going to poach this coach if we don't get him locked up. So I think that's why you see him get locked up when he did.
Why is it in the NHL a guy can get fired, a coach, and the next day get hired at another big
It's
organization?
It's
the only sport
the coaching
that
carousel is ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And
big name coaches can lose all these games, but then somebody's going to put a bunch of money in his pocket.
He's going to help our club. He's going to be good for us.
Oh, yeah.
He stunk here, but he's going to be really good here. I've never understood that, and that's why I'd like to see a coach like Tourigny who's getting his first chance to be a head coach. I think the National Hockey League needs to break the coaching carousel and get rid of that, and I think you're starting to see it because, and it's in every sport. You see it, I'm sure, at the lab, where you see these kids, they need the pat on the back and, hey, you can be firm, but you also need to tell them they're doing something right and be positive reinforcement. And I don't think the coaches of yesteryear, 10, 15 years ago, coached that way in the NHL. And I don't think that works anymore. I think it's evolved and it's changed. So I want to see younger coaches getting that opportunity. So let's hope that carousel ends and we start seeing the young guys get a chance.
So Steve, with Bill Armstrong as the general manager, are we seeing a similar blueprint what they did in St. Louis to what we're seeing here?
Well, it is. They want to build through the draft.
If you looked at their playbook.
Absolutely. You want to build through draft, you want to build through size. So this team is not going to get pushed around. They've got some big body players and they're going to work extremely hard. They're doing it the right way, but we've said this before on a rebuild. The losing was the easy part. So they've done that. Now they're starting to make their steps forward and try to progress and be better. Now this is where Bill's going to have to get better at the cap. He's going to have to get better at bringing free agents. And we're talking the next 2 or 3 years, this team wants to be a perennial playoff team. So the easy part of his job has been done. And he's done a great job.
Sure.
But now the hard part.
Playoff bound this year?
No.
This weekend?
It'll be exciting. I think fans will be excited. And I think by the first of the year, this team will go above the double line at some point and tease a playoff position. I just don't think they can sustain
All right, Steve,
it.
let's go back last year, that 2 or 3 week period. They were lights out.
Yep.
What were they doing?
It was goaltending.
Okay, and then can they sustain that when you're starting with 4 tough teams on the road as your 2 litmus tests to see what you have, what you don't have?
In my mind, couldn't be a worse road trip. I don't mind starting on the road. I think it builds team chemistry and camaraderie. I don't like the teams they're playing right off the bat. The New Jersey Devils won last night. They're playing again at home. They're incredibly quick. This is a team that got 112 points last year. I've got them as one of the favorites in the Eastern Conference. And then they go to the Rangers, who I have in the Stanley Cup. So these first 2 games, and then they never win on the island. So they're in trouble till they get to St. Louis. They might be able to take a deep breath. But over the long haul of this season, I think they're going to score goals. I think this team is more offensively gifted than they've been for several seasons. I just hope they can keep the puck out of there.
And when do we find out about the new arena? Come on, you got to have some inside scoop, man. You got your own podcast. Go PHNX.
I hope it's soon. They keep saying, the league's saying by the first of the year or by February. So
and the latest balloon that went up was that they would the one site, at least one of the sites, they would not have to deal with a referendum. Do we know if that's Mesa? That's a reservation.
I mean, we keep looking at that Mesa site and the reservation and the Scottsdale
When you
site.
say no referendum, that means they can go. It's zoned. It's ready to go.
They need that.
We buy it. We lease it. Whatever. We're ready to go right now.
Could you see another owner in this market jumping in?
We'll see.
It's a possibility.
Yes.
Shared ownership.
If Matt Ishbia or Michael Bidwell or whomever, or Kendrick or somebody comes in and say, "Hey, Matt Ishbia is a Michigan guy. You know, he likes hockey. Maybe he can come in."
I think here's the deal. I think the league has shown over and over again they want a team here in the desert. I believe that they want to keep the team here. I do not think this team is relocating. If this ownership cannot get an arena deal done by early in the spring, I would not be surprised if the league started to shop this team around for an owner that could keep the team in the Valley.
Wow. He's Steve Peters. You can check him out. He is always on Go PHNX. He's also part of the ESPN hockey team. And you can always follow him on Twitter at @SPetersHockey. But again, it's Go PHNX. And Appreciate you coming down here,
Thanks.
buddy.
That's great.
It's the most I've seen you in
can't go wrong
in a
at
year
Right
or so.
Toyota.
You got that right. Hey, for those of you that normally tune in at this time for the Arena Sports Grill report, we will have that for you at 2:45. Coming up, we'll catch up with the CEO of the Fiesta Bowl, Eric Moses. We have our Learner Row Pick'em contest.